Today I want to bring a discussion to you on some new findings in the virus situation. Strangely, they have found that when the virus invades your body at 7 p.m., it's the worst time because the pathogenesis is very severe. Reason being, at 7 p.m. your immunity is low. In the chronobiology of the day, that melatonin has to move on from 6 p.m. onwards into the night, recovering our immunity, recovering our chromaffin cells, and recovering our retina and recovering our brain cells. All that is the work of melatonin. So melatonin has to do that cycle from 6 p.m. So they have found patients get worse during the time when macrophages are least active. That is 7 p.m. in the evening. If you take a WBC-DC report, you will find that it has N for neutrophils. Those are the attack cells when a bacterium gets into the system. And then there is L for lymphocytes, which make antibodies, and which makes immune memory. And you have E eosinophils, which deal with parasites and also which cause allergy, and you have M monocytes in your blood report, which become macrophages and mast cells when they are facing an attack, and then they go out of the bloodstream and become mast cells and macrophages. Macrophages meaning they swallow up those foreign proteins and so on. So what happens is at 7 p.m. macrophages are least active. So first, when if the virus enters at 7 p.m. first time, it creates a more severe infection, this particular research says, and also that during the day at that time, the immune processes being weak, the immune attacks go on badly. Then of course I have detail, and I'll tell again, when you are in home care or when you know to be COVID positive, and if you get a headache suddenly, you need to report to the doctor, and there's a good system now available with emergency line 1390 as MO on call, and there are family physicians covering up. So that is from home you can give this telephone call. So if you get a sudden headache, if you get a diarrhea, you must know it's a sign that the inflammation, the virus invasion is getting worse. And if your cough deepens, you need to take a precaution, you need to get to a doctor. And then the best thing to do is, as you are COVID positive, keep a test on breathing, meaning you morning and evening do a breathing exercise, even 3 times a day, that's fine. Take a deep breath, hold your breath for 10 to the count of 10, 1, 2, 3, like that. And then if you can't hold, then you know your breathing is getting difficult, which means the virus immune reaction is involving the lung. Now they have done another research, and they find that Ceylon cinnamon aldehyde, that's the name that is given to it, is effective in blocking some of the bad immune processes that happen in the lung. And therefore you can take a cinnamon tea drink, which will prevent this when your lung is getting involved. So what happens is the body reacts to the invasion, the foreign invasion, and body inflammatory markers react like that, the interleukins. Then there's another set of interleukins called the specific pro-resolver molecules dependent on vitamin D. They put it down, they are resolving. So if vitamin D is low, this attack goes over the board, and that is called a cytokine storm. So I have done many clips on this. Today I wanted to get a little more these new things to you. And when you are recovering, it is known that avocado and omega-3 fatty acids will help improve the immune processes that resolve the lung issues and even other generalized immune issues that arise with a COVID infection. These are some of the new findings. So we know STOIC trial by Oxford said budesonide inhalation. That's the inhalation that's taken for asthma, is effective for this also, to reduce the lung condition. So these are some of the things that are now out, which you need to inform your doctor. I have done a medical academic article for the College of General Practitioners of Sri Lanka. I am Dr. Lalith Mendis. My last substantive post was as head of Department of Pharmacology in a state medical faculty. If you are any of your doctors, you can ask for it. Even if you are not a doctor, you can ask for it. I can send it to you on WhatsApp. Our WhatsApp number is, please don't call, but just send a message, 076 if you are from abroad, plus 9476 313 4800. Then I can send you some of these clips I am talking about. Also, I have an app called Golden Nuggets. You can download it free on App Store, Apple Store, or on Google. So that's a little bit of more help for you to keep up with the times. Now I want to get into a section today. What are the things that come against you? There's a good description here. This is how that description goes. Here it is. There's a promise: you will be delivered from the snare of the trapper. This is about how they catch the bird. So things come into life. Traps are not visible. If you knew it's a trap, you don't walk into it. It's easy to walk into a trap. The rat will tell you that. But once you walk into it, or a bird will tell you, even if you escape, it's like your wings have been clipped. You are not the same. That's what a trap does. They come at human beings. 2, the terror by night. Now there are things like this that Sri Lankan culture knows. Don't just put it aside. There are things like that. Now I just told you how in the evening at 7 p.m. when your immunity is low, what happens to how the COVID attack gets bad. So there are things that you can simply do to improve your immunity. One is to see sunset. Have a good look at sunset. Be outside doing some exercise. This is also good for children. That gives you a good melatonin boost, and that makes your immunity better. Also, pear, an apple also, has quercetin. That works with interleukins very well. Some people even prescribe quercetin. Then pineapple has bromelain, and more you eat of the skin of the pineapple, that is to say, just skin it off slightly. If you eat, you get bromelain, which is good for your immunity. And then the orange, the white part of the orange is good for vitamin C. White part of the orange has flavonoids. That also works very well for immunity. So that's and then they have found that omega-3 fatty acids improve immunity even on long-term COVID recovery. Those are some of the things. Then I have already told you, daily vitamin D, zinc, and vitamin C helps in keeping your immune system going well. A recent report is suggestive research. If you want these citations, I can send it to you. That vitamin B12 is helpful in overcoming the virus attack. Then, so this is about terror by night. Then the third thing that is described here is a deadly pestilence. That is a real medical thing that comes at you. Then there's a fourth thing described: arrow that flies by day. What is this? You are the target, and you may know who's making you a target, whose arrow shooting at you. So it comes from far but directed at you. Have you encountered phenomena like that? Then it is said arrow that flies by day, because in broad daylight, probably from someone you trusted, that's what day means. And it was all well, but this came at you. Then the fifth one is a pestilence that stalks you from darkness. That is, its origin is not really sure. And this happens when I was in the Prof Medical Unit in Ward 41 National Hospital, Sri Lanka, long years ago, when I was registrar to the Professor of Medicine. A family came, and this boy had gone to see a certain film, Exorcist 1, and next morning he wouldn't come out of his room because he was behaving strangely, and he was brought to our ward and we couldn't diagnose. Then I asked the Prof of Medicine, my senior, Sir, do you believe in this dark things? He said, Mendis, not in a ward. But I could see this is not a medical thing. This fellow is behaving strangely, having watched a unusual film. That's just to give you an understanding about things that walk from darkness. So don't put them aside. There are phenomena that are happening in day-to-day life, yes. In humility, we might have to learn about them, and in humility, we might have to face. Recently, dad and mom consulted me about a sweet young fellow. He was just 12 years old, from a very good family, but he had been into digital gaming virtually 14-16 hours a day with 2 huge 4K screens. And one night he came running to his parents' room and said something dark walked out of that screen. And he wouldn't go back to his room. He wanted all the screens covered. He wanted the mirror covered. So there are phenomena, and they were secular people, but they told me, but Dr. Mendis, we didn't believe any of these things were there, but we now understand. So there are things that walk from darkness into your life. Then destruction that lays waste at noonday. That is, everything is going well for you, but this bad thing happens. From where did it happen? It was you were in a real height of prosperity, so to say, summit of your achievement. Then whoosh, you did not see the circumstances arranging against you. That is called destruction that lays waste at noonday. Then I want to read this thing, an ancient statement about a city, understanding what could happen to cities and understanding what is happening to us now. Here I want to read it to you because it's so pithy with pathos. This is how it goes. If you had then he approached Jerusalem. So this is AD 33 statement. He saw the city and wept over it. Why? Saying, if you had known in this day, even you, the thing which makes for peace, but now they have been hidden from your eye. Things that make for your peace, they are hidden from your eye. For the days will come upon you, when your enemies will throw up a barricade against you, shut down, lock down against you, and surround you and hem you on every side. Don't you think a shutdown and a lockdown is not a thing we have expected? We didn't think in modern cities plague can do this, did we? No. We had all the vaccinations and whatnot. Plague was over. But here is a prediction almost. For the days will come upon you when your enemies will throw up a barricade against you and surround you and hem you in on every side, shut you down. And they will level you to the ground and your children within you, and they will not leave in you. Yes, so it's a terrible time, and we agree COVID is a terrible time. Now you need to listen to my clip number 220. I called it Waterloo to Wuhan, because I did a little examination of the conditions of the French Revolution and how much of it is here. I examined this strange phenomenon that last part of the previous century sets up things to undo the first quarter of the next century. So the forces of French Revolution and Voltaire was operating in 1789 was the day the Bastille was broken down, the height of the French Revolution, and what happened with Napoleon and the wars in Europe. Then Charles Darwin and Marx set up Europe during the latter half of the 19th century. Charles Darwin wrote in 1859, and that's the same year Charles Darwin wrote Origin of Species. Karl Marx wrote Das Kapital. And then in the first quarter of the next century, 1914 to 1918, you had First World War. 1917, you had the Bolshevik Revolution, communism taking over Russia and killing so many people. And 1918 came the Spanish flu, killing 50 million people. What is this phenomenon? And then in the last century, when we all flourished and became wiser than Solomon, people thought, and then in the last century, things had been set up that by 2020 we were struggling with the virus, and now we know virus came from Wuhan, but the research began in the CDC of USA under Dr. Fauci. Now that is beyond doubt. From the beginning we knew this when we studied the viral structure and the mRNA. So the mRNA have the nucleotide sequences that produce the spike protein. So in the old SARS-CoV-1 virus, they had taken it to a lab, and they had added nucleotides onto the mRNA. Let's say this is the mRNA. They add nucleotides to the mRNA, which determines what the spike protein will be like. So the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein was very attaching, very invasive. That's how it became such a dangerous virus. So I call that clip Waterloo to Wuhan and Voltaire to variants. You must have a look at it. 220. So this one is my 223. Okay, this is my 223. I don't know what to call it yet, but I want to take you now with that background of what humanity did to humanity. Then I also told you from 1970 we have been on a journey. In two different ships. One ship was called MV Fantastica, merchant vessel Fantastica, where there was struggle for existence. Only fittest survived. The world's Nephilim, the giants, those who prey on others, the global dinosaurs, were all ruling there. So in 1970 we had 70% of the world's GDP controlled by 30% of the people. By 1990, we had 90% of the world's GDP determined, controlled, invested and deployed by 10% of the people. So what was the difference? In 1960, more than 50% of world's economy went for food, health, education, housing. Food, health, education, housing. That was 1960. By 1990, 90% of world's GDP was in the hands of 10% of people. And what were the major investments? What was GDP turning around on? Illness, wellness industry and big time pharma, armament, motor industry, then IT, fashion industry, cosmetics, toys, confectionaries. Can you believe this? And who wants all this? So I called it the MV Fantastica. But there was a group of people, they were on the HMS Redemptoria, His Majesty's service, Redemptoria. Well, how did they live? They said life is a gift received from above, with a good shepherd giving us his skills and benevolence so that we become benefactors. So doctor is a benefactor and patient is the beneficiary, and the beneficence is our modus operandi. That's how this HMS Redemptoria ran. However, it looked a dull project. Everybody was in this huge MV Fantastica. The other industry that really took off was entertainment industry. Then, of course, the pedophilia industry, the pornography industry, human trafficking industry, and all those stuff were going on in MV Fantastica, and some of those are now spilling over. But by the time we come to realization, if we have come to realization, world is quite done, isn't it? World has become old, like a garment that cannot be reused. What happened in the consumerist extravaganza was, what we had for 400 years, we consumed in 40 years, and we exhausted the recoverable, renewable, sustainable ecosystems we have consumed. Obvious examples are the corals. Actually, the world's oxygen 70% is made inside the ocean, not on the surface of the earth. So all these ecological battles about the surface of the earth is just cosmetic. Real problem is inside the ocean. We have ruined our ocean. Our corals are down to 40%. What do corals do? They are the kidneys of the world. They maintain the pH value, the acid-base balance on which all living systems have to trust. All enzymes, plants, animals, humans, all enzymes need an even pH balance. That's done by the corals. In the human body, if the kidney is down to 1/3, 33%, kidneys are down to 33%, we call it chronic renal failure. In the world, corals are down to 40%. What if the corals are down to 33%? Only God knows. Literally, only God knows. So, how do we describe this phenomenon of MV Fantastica? The media, the ruling the roost and people believing the roost. Of course, that's what happened. That which is most audible, that which is most visible, becomes the gullible truth. That's what we consume. Look at the Wuhan virus. Media said, no, it never leaked, it's natural. Same goes for so many things. So they set it up. So here is a comparison between MB Fantastica and NHMS Redemptoria. Blessed are the needy in spirit. They will humbly depend and be thankful and grateful when they consume. Rapacious will be the overfull, owing nothing to anyone. So we can see a generation is arising. They don't think they even owe anything to parents. What and how have the parents been living? How have the parents, did they live for their children, or did they live for their career and for their greatness? An honest checkup is necessary, whether you also did the MB Fantastica, or whether you are in that earth-saving, earth-redeeming, good shepherd's nature on earth. If not, we all go waste. That is the HMS Redemptoria story. Second one, blessed are the meek who make way for others to prosper. Rapacious will be those who take over the space of others and the time of others. Just think about it, contrasting Fantastica and Redemptoria. When the, you have heard this, when the going gets tough get going, survival of existence, might is right, the thriving will thrive. But there is a group of people who say, not only the thriving to thrive, everybody must survive. There's a group of people like that, who say that and live that. They are the people of the Good Shepherd, who said, my principle is, man shall not want. Few people can't have over and excess and above when there is want. So he said, if you have the Good Shepherd, you will not be wanting, and he will lead you into more. Every human being has in his breast more. Can I develop my child? Can I develop myself? So the third one, blessed are they who sorrow for error, they will restore. Rapacious are they who do tit for tat, never undo the error. See, I have told you this again and again. That's what the digital screen creates, a generation who do not know check back. They are on a dopamine drive, do. Peril, thrill, do and see. In Sinhala those days we said, paninta pera sita balanu. Now there's a generation that says, sitannata pera penala balanu. That's right. So when a bus is coming, they just want to see, can we cross before it passes? So even in sports, injuries are more when you whack Red Bull, and when you are on the digital screen, you assess injury, all that wrong. So they are more prone to injuries. Which means they injure others also. Sexual thrills injure others. They get into thrill and peril-seeking behavior, fight, fright, flight. And the words are like that. So I've done many clips on the digital screen, and as I told you at the beginning, if you want any of these particular clips, please send me a WhatsApp message to +94 76 313 4800. You only have to say Waterloo to Wuhan or 5 digital laws or whatever that you need. That's all that you have to do. Then the fourth one, blessed are the peacemakers, they will build. Peacemakers build steady, slow. Rapacious are the grudge keepers, they will tear up. So just see what you are like. Are you a builder and a restorer, healing things, or you are a tearing up person, the way you do business, where you do your profession, where you do your relationships? What kind are you? Just take a stock of yourself. Fifthly, blessed are the merciful, for they provide water springs in the desert. Rapacious are the unmerciful, they make wastelands in lives. Have you been in a situation, a person is speaking scorching hot, his words are like vitriol. Vitriol is the old word for sulfuric acid. You feel drying up, you can feel it's very heated animus is spreading everywhere the way this person is speaking. So never be that on social media, isn't it? Spread a little kindness, benevolence, beneficence on social media, because we are the people of the HMS Redemptoria. We are the people of the Good Shepherd. There's a different kind of lifestyle which I call live and let live. Then the sixth one, blessed are the pure, for they scatter light. That comes from my wife's school, they scatter light. Blessed are the pure, for they scatter light. Rapacious are the unclean who spread darkness and filth. I need to say this. I was very convinced about the theory of evolution in 1970s, the year I got through the A-level, and you said he looks like from the Jurassic Park. Yes. And that year I came first in the island in the A-level, chemistry, physics, botany, zoo. So I knew the theory of evolution like the back of my hand or the front of my hand, very committed to it. Then I entered Colombo Medical Faculty and I came first in every batch. During that time, I began to realize when my brain was getting smart, my heart was getting tight, not nice. So I had an ideological change, and I knew I need a good shepherd in my life. That brain can't do everything. Brain can do a lot, but there are some vital things brain can't do. If you ask your son, what do you like better, my brain or my heart? What do you think your son will say? He will say at once your heart, correct? Yeah. So the heart has reasons about which head knows nothing, said Blaise Pascal. Heart has reasons about which head knows nothing. So I like to send you my Golden Nuggets app download. Please send a request to, you can just go to Apple Store or and Google Golden Nuggets, Dr. Lalith Mendis, and it's free. All my talks are on it. So blessed are the pure who scatter light, rapacious are the unclean who spread darkness and filth. I don't have to tell you too much of it. There's a world agog with that kind of thing. Finally, blessed are they who hunger for the right. They will bring justice. Rapacious are the predators who spread violence, violation and injustice. Two different living systems. You can't be on the fence anymore. You can see what MB Fantastica has done to the world. And the world is now run by 45-year-old scientists and 45-year-old Rishi Sunak in UK. So the 45-year-olds are really ruling the roost. The 65-year-olds and the 70, the older professors, said many things about how this pandemic should be managed. Excellent scientific advice. But they were just thrown aside because there's a different ruling class. And the Lancet, most read medical journal, did a fake article about a certain drug, knowing it was fake. And since then also it has taken a certain line. Its scientific integrity is in ruins. I say this with great respect and responsibility because I am published on PubMed on migraine, irritable bowel syndrome, aspirin, levodopa, that is Parkinsonism. From the ward we would run to the SLMA library to read Lancet. It's standing, but it has completely taken a different stance. It is now doing politics very affiliated with a world power. It's owned by a company, so it does the company policy, though it is supposed to be a medical research journal. So these things have come out to the light now. So we have a decision: do we belong in the MB Fantastica, or do we get on the HMS Redemptoria, where a good shepherd sets the values, and he says, "Those who walk with me shall not want. I will lead you into more," but lifestyle is different from you are to be fruitful, you are to multiply, you are to fill your portion and help others fill their portion. That is the lifestyle on HMS Redemptoria. And when we do errors, so this is what that little verse that I read, it said, If you had known in this day, even you, the things which make for peace. So what makes for our peace is saying, forgive me for what I did, I forgive you for what you did. So we were taught to say, give us our daily bread. So it's us, it's not only give me my everything, enough for me for ever and ever. So this pandemic has created new billionaires, and 3 existing well-known billionaires have become 3 times more rich. So where did the billions come from just in 1 year? The nations struggling in the pandemic. All the pandemic products made 11 new billionaires and made the 3 best-known ones super rich, so that they can now travel to space. You know that there's a space competition, who will get there first, and a ticket is only $29 million. Did you understand? So it's a sad, sad world. Science's height of achievement, humanity's pathos. You have to decide, will you have this good shepherd helping us to be fairer, equal? Thank you for listening. The way of peace is still available. Thank you for listening.